Relationships. A manager in one of my classes wanted her mother to live in a nursing home. It would be safer, her mother would get better health care, and she would have more companionship. Her mother agreed that would be the case, but refused to go. I'm just not ready yet, her mother kept saying. First, her mother said she didn't want to part with her belongings, the treasured artifacts of her life. Finally, her daughter was able to articulate her mother's fears. Once you throw out your stuff, you've thrown out your life. Then you are just waiting to die. Her mother cried and agreed. So her daughter suggested that her mother take everything with her. They could find a storage space nearby. When her mother was ready, she could go through her things, keep what she wanted, and donate or throw away the rest. Her mother willingly went to the nursing home. A multi-billion dollar industry has sprouted around fixing relationships. Psychiatrists, marriage counselors, mediators, business consultants, family advisors. It is clear from the experiences of those in my courses, however, that most relationship problems do not require professionals. Relationship issues, whether business or personal, generally begin with a simple lack of understanding. Poor communication issues. Often this can be fixed simply and quickly without the proper skills and treatment. A minor injury can become a major disease that requires professional medical help. The same is true of relationships. The way to repair most relationships before things fester is to become more direct, or offer the other person emotional payment, ask more questions, listen first, and consider the feelings and sensibilities of the other person. Of course, sometimes professionals are needed, but many people who use the tools in getting well have greatly improved their relationships as well as saved friendships, marriages, and deals, while also discovering a better way to attract and hold onto those they care about. In the example above, it should be underscored that the mother was emotional and the daughter addressed those emotional feelings. She understood the perceptions of the mother and used the framing to provide an emotional payment. This chapter will look more closely and specifically at tools that are effective in relationships. Using these tools to solve a relationship problem will enable people to get more for both themselves and their partners. A significant part of relationship comprises emotion addressed in Chapter 6, but effective relationships require more than emotional intelligence. They require use of the broad range of tools outlined in the first half of Getting On: standards, trading items of unequal value, problem solving, being incremental, and so forth. So here we focus not just on one strategy, but on applying multiple strategies and tools toward improving relationships. First, it should be crystal clear to you that you actually want to form or hold on to a relationship. Many people in business pretend that they want have a relationship with you. In too many cases, however, the real aim is to use your knowledge or connection to get ahead. This is known as a confidence game. People push as pressure to gain your confidence. Once they do, they take whatever they can. As mentioned earlier, if people in business do not have the skills or experience to meet their goals fairly, they are more likely to lie, cheat, and manipulate. So any chapter on relationship must start with the premise that you should strive to form a relationship only with people who are trustworthy. With non-trustworthy people, you can still do business, but you need to be more incremental and get commitments. In relationships, people expose their ideas, their clients, and sometimes their bank account numbers to those they trust to varying degrees. Before you do this, the first rule of thumb is the less certain you are about the trust relationship, the less information you should release. The second rule of thumb is what's the worst that can happen, and have you protected yourself against that? One of my favorite expressions is even paranoid people have real enemies. Even people with the most secure seeming jobs find themselves outmaneuvered as a result of lies, innuendos, or politics, no matter how qualified they are. There is much less loyalty in today's organizations. Companies shed people for all sorts of reasons, even when organizations claim to support collegiality and ethics. It may not be practiced in day-to-day life. Most companies publicly say they favor diversity, and as noted, data shows that those organizations with a diversity of ideas end up being more creative and usually more profitable. But just try being different in an organization. You may be seen as a pariah. One study found that executives choose new company directors with a similar perspective, suggesting uniformity of thought. Another study showed that the promise of diversity in organization often does not approach the reality, where sameness is valued and differences produce social divisions. My advice in business relationship is to document everything. It sounds paranoid, but I have seen too many instances where people put their careers and their family's security at risk in a business relationship only to fall victim to politics or someone else's personal gain. Keep notes of important meetings, what you did, what they did and said. Think of it as an investment in your future security. Take 5 or 10 minutes every day to write down what you did to add value to the company. Record the details or anything someone did that concerns you. President Ronald Reagan's famous quote about nuclear arms limitation is good advice in every business relationship. Trust but verify. Don't just go on faith in a business. Ask yourself what's in it for them. Ask yourself what each of you is giving up. Ask yourself if you are placing yourself in a vulnerable position. My goal here is to prepare you to negotiate in the real world, not in an idealized one. Using emotional payments in a relationship. The strongest bias for a relationship is an attraction based on feelings. This includes personal chemistry, trust, mutual needs, social bonds, shared experiences, and common enemies. The stronger these qualities, the more of a commitment that people make to each other. One can easily see how a threat can undermine these feelings. A threat is a warning to hurt someone in some way. Threats are, as one researcher put it, utterly bankrupt as a strategy in forming relationships, and yet people do it often, especially in business. Threats push people apart rather than bring them together. They create fear and desire for retribution. The strongest way to establish bonds in a relationship is emotional payment. Without them, no relationship can survive. An emotional payment is something that makes the other party feel better, empathy, an apology, a concession. It can include all sorts of intangible things, such as respect, face saving, a statement of the other person's value. An emotional payment is almost always something that provides a solution to an irrational need. It is a part of everyday life. Virtually everyone gets nervous, upset, panicky, angry, depressed, or sad, and disappointed at some point. We all second guess ourselves. Your job in a relationship is to help the other person get past it. You may have to overcome their saying mean, hurtful thing to you, which they say not because they mean it, but because you are the only one around and they need to vent. If this is the case, you must stay calm and give them what they need. Emotional payments must be specifically tailored to the individuals involved and can include silence as well as talking. And you must take their rational words or mood at face value and start there. This is because people who need emotional payments are hardly listening. There is only a small window through which they hear things, messages that connect with their emotion. You have to be careful not to upset them further. One wrong word can close the window and hurt the relationship because you are not providing for their emotional needs. That Lamarck, whom I mentioned before as having negotiated a 41% salary increase, also uses his skills on the home front. His wife, Emily, was having a severe panic attack over the prospective loss of tens of thousands of dollars from the sale of their Philadelphia house in their move to California. Emily was also upset about leaving her friends and surroundings. Dak decided his wife did not need advice on how to solve her problems or calm down. She needed emotional payments. So Dak asked his wife questions about her feelings for about an hour. I did absolutely no talking. Dak recalled his wife did all the talking. The whole episode took 6 hours. A big part of the emotional payment was simply listening to her. Gradually, his wife calmed down. When she did, they were able to talk about life in California, and that could paint a small positive picture to be continued later. Valued people also provide an emotional payment. There are many ways to value people. Too often, however, we lack the skill or inclination to figure out how the other person can be valued. You need to make the effort if you want to get more. As the chairman of a conference on India, Arjun Madan was trying to convince a high-profile Indian cricket player To be a speaker, the player had a big ego, according to Arjun. The cricket player had demanded first-class airfare and a luxury hotel suite. Arjun's group could only afford economy class, so Arjun and his team thought about how else to value the athlete. They did role reversal and realized that the player was most concerned about status and publicity. So while the offer of economy travel remained, they promised to set up interviews with three leading TV channels, create a brochure about the speech, produce a podcast of his visit, and share a dinner in his honor with cricket-crazy Indian fans. The team noted that some of India's most successful business leaders would be in attendance. Do I hear thus much? The cricket player agreed to come, flew economy class, and stayed in a standard room. It worked out exactly as planned, said Arjun, a California financial manager. Emotional payments can also reduce the other person's fear. Fear can paralyze people, making them unable to think clearly. A big part of negotiating in a successful relationship and strengthening it is to reduce your partner's fears. To do that, you first have to know what their fears are. Scott Wilders proposed that he and his wife, Lara, hike the Inca Trail in Peru. She read there were no showers or cabbage along the trail. Absolutely not, she said, but Scott realized that it couldn't really be what was holding her back. Lara had done adventuresome things before. Maybe there was something deeper. He tried to look at the world through her eyes. "Are you afraid of being alone in the Andes?" he said. "Absolutely," she admitted. So Scott developed contingency plans for cabin, shower, and trench. He gave his wife lots of information about what the trip would be like and how so many others like themselves had had a great time. He promised never to leave her side for the entire 9 days. She agreed to go. He had reduced her underlying fears by both validating them and addressing them. "We had a great time," said Scott, a consultant for Boston Consulting Group in Dallas. Scott had done a reversal to identify his wife's perception, and then reduced her perceived risk by providing specific details. Even if the other person's fears seem ridiculous, they are very real to them. Walk them step by step from where their fears reside to a perception of safety. Steve Shakuhi wanted to get a dog for his daughter, Bridget, but his wife was afraid for her daughter's safety. She also thought dogs were unsanitary. Steve told his wife Deborah that in many cases she would be absolutely right. This was an emotional payment. Steve then asked if they could get a smaller, cleaner dog for their daughter. It would teach her about responsibility. Steve took Deborah to a friend's house. Their friends had bought a Cocker Spaniel from a respected breeder. Deborah agreed it was a beautiful dog. "I just needed to find out the exact source of her fears so I could make her more comfortable," said Steve, now a principal in his family's New York real estate business. He also was incremental and provided visual details. The family got Cocker Spaniel Benji. Mark, Sebastian, and his wife Stephanie were planning a dream vacation in Europe. His wife insisted on taking the train in Italy. She didn't want them to drive there. She was afraid of me driving in Italy, he said, but she wasn't afraid in the United States. Why not? The United States has more speed limits, cars with automatic transmission, bigger cars. All that added up to her perception that driving was less safe in Italy. Mark pointed out that Italians' driving practices are little different from Americans. Stephanie wasn't persuaded because her fear wasn't rational. What helped him to persuade her was to deal more directly with his wife's fear. "We rent a bigger car," said Mark, an attorney in New York. "We'll get more insurance on the car. We'll get a GPS navigation system. We won't drive at night. We'll get maps, and I'll take you to Prada for a purse or a pair of shoes." "Prada?" his wife said. "Really?" "Absolutely," said Mark. "Okay, as long as we rent a mid-sized car and drive through Tuscany, my boy, you should keep coming back to the picture in the other person's head and try to address their concern." Here, Mark also traded items of unequal value for that Tuscany. People in romantic relationships are looking for unconditional love. That doesn't mean you can offer constructive criticism. It means that the other person in your relationship wants your love and support no matter what. They want you to love and value them despite their foibles. This contrasts sharply with the traditional, more destructive actions of withholding emotional support as part of relationship negotiation. Emotional payments also include the notion of saving face, which is often associated with Asian cultures, although its usage is much broader. It really has to do with helping the other person maintain his or her dignity and sparing embarrassment in the presence of those they care about. Haruka Renee sent her grandmother a debit card to withdraw money from her account so she could buy medicine, but her grandmother refused to use the card, even though she couldn't afford the medicine herself. "I realized she was trying to save her face," Laruka said, so Laruka reframed the situation for her. "Didn't you raise me for 7 years?" Laruka asked. "Didn't you take care of me when I was in the hospital? If I was sick, wouldn't you insist that you should help me?" Laruka said she wanted to give her mother a gift in appreciation of all the things she had done for Laruka over the years, and because one's health is one of the most important things in the world. Could she accept the gift? This framing enabled her mother to hold on to her dignity and still accept money from her granddaughter, resist the temptation to make fun of the other person's perceptions. If you don't take their fears and feelings seriously, they will be angry and resent you for it. Alan, Kessler's fiancée, was a vegetarian. She wanted to make her political statement by not serving meat at their wedding. "My friends are carnivores," Alan said. "They are not vegetarians." They'll have a terrible time if we force them to eat wheatgrass. I offered to get a free-range, humanely killed cow for the wedding feast, said Alan. That way, our weddings won't support being meat. He also told her that if they didn't have meat at the dinner, their guests would likely go out to a fast food restaurant right after the reception. Fast food restaurants, he opined, use the least humanely slaughtered cows. Alan's fiancée agreed to have humanely slaughtered cow at the wedding feast. This would normally have been an impossible argument, Alan admitted. She is very proud of her political convictions, but did he learn to value her, whatever her perception? I will do this with her until the day I die, she said. Yes, he took it less seriously than she, but he met her needs and didn't have to change her personality. Being incremental in relationships. An emotional payment is usually only the first in a series of steps you will have to take for others to move from their perception to your goals. Too many people try to get others to change all at once. As we have seen throughout getting more, it's usually too big a step. First, validate their feelings. Next, bring them step by step to where you want them to go. Arjun Somasekhara did not want his wife, Lana, to leave her job at AT&T. Like many entrepreneurial managers, Lana was frustrated with the bureaucracy typical of many large companies. Arjun had a lot of good reasons why Lana should stay at AT&T. Flexible working hours, training, a company car, great maternity benefits, and promise of a transfer to London, where Arjun would be assigned next. However, Arjun knew if he had said all of this to Lana at once, she would feel. He wasn't sensitive to her feelings, so he first told Lana that yes, many big companies have burdensome bureaucracies. He was confirming the validity of her feelings. Next, Arjun told Lana that she could still excel at AT&T because of its training and opportunities, and that the couple would also have a better life in London with two incomes. Meanwhile, Lana could decide her future on her own time frame. When it was explained to her that way, Lana could see the wisdom of Arjun's words and agreed. Eventually, Lana found a way to use her creativity at AT&T in London and become a productive and happy senior manager there. Looking for a solution in an incremental way is important in all negotiation, but it is especially important in relationships. Trying to suggest too big a move can feel like a threat to many people. Lingan described the relationship between her and her parents as difficult. We always fight whenever I come here. My house is really cold and I hate going home in the winter. As a result of what we teach in class, however, she put herself in the shoes of her parents and realized that it hurt them when she complained about their house. So she also realized from talking to them that heating is very expensive where they live. Finally, she realized that showing respect for her parents would offer them an important emotional payment in line with the traditional Chinese cultural values. Instead of accusing her parents of keeping a cold house, we praised their thrift niece. Then Lin suggested that they raise the heat in one, one room in the house, the room where Lin would sleep and study. Her parents agreed, and everyone was happy. It was a smaller and more incremental solution. When the subject concerns dimly held beliefs, it is essential to be incremental in your attempt to persuade the other person. In the Caballo Garrison household, the subject was religion for the children. Pierre was not particularly religious. Jackie was. Pierre started with a wise suggestion. First, whatever we do, we are not going to break the family up over this, right? In other words, she was saying, let's keep focused on our main goals. Second, the couple agreed to some ground rules in dealing with each other. Tone is very important in a discussion like this. We are not going to solve every issue at once. Everyone can't get everything they want all the time. The "I'm right, you're wrong" syndrome doesn't work very well in relationships. Whatever our beliefs are, we each respect the other beliefs. Finally, if tension develops, stop, take a break, come back to it later. Jackie wanted the kids to have formal religion, hers, and Philip didn't. Philip wanted to know if the children would eventually be able to decide their religions for themselves. Jackie said yes, but she wanted the children to believe in God. They were able to take these initial thoughts and achieve their first agreement. No Sunday school in which one religion is first fed, and Jackie would teach the children about religion, not just one religion, but several religions. That's as far as they got that week, but it was a start, and their relationship was as strong as ever. Pierre was mindful of trading items of unequal value, too. If I can feel very, very strongly about something and Jackie doesn't, what could we trade? Said Pim, not an attorney in New York. If I get what I want here, what can I give her that she feels strongly about? He said the negotiation tools are indispensable to his professional life too, instructing on both the civil and criminal sides. A life is about give and take, he added. If you demand that you get everything, your relationship is unlikely to survive. Common enemies and relationships. Relationships aim to strengthen the bond between people. Emotional payment get people to listen to one another. Valuing the other party causes them to be positive in return. One of the fastest and most powerful ways to bind people together in both new and existing relationships is by establishing common enemies. A common enemy puts the people in the relationship in the same foxhole together against some third party. The enemy can be a person, a group, a thing, or an idea. Parties that are bound together against someone or something feel closer. People complain about the weather at the beginning of a conversation. Some people in a negotiation half-jokingly complain about lawyers or bureaucracy. Others yet complain about traffic delays or miscommunication. All are attempts to find a common enemy to bring the two parties closer together. Of course, the use of common enemies is also a favorite tool of demagogues in one of its basest forms. Adolf Hitler tried to make the Jewish people common enemies to the German people, and his success resulted in the Holocaust. Bigotry in all forms attempt to create common enemies, whether by race, social class, nationality, politics, age, religion, or culture. Some legitimate common enemies in business relationships are loss of profit, loss of time, failure to retain good people, and inability to capitalize on opportunities. In personal life, they include waste of talent, loneliness, and poor health. A good way to determine if the common enemy employed in a relationship is fair, as opposed to democracy, is to ask, is the common enemy a single uniform enemy? If it's diverse, it can legitimately be a common enemy. For example, a religion as a common enemy is blatantly unfair in that religion is composed of individuals far too diverse to all be the same. The same is true of American people, although speakers in US politics use this term regularly. A generalized indictment of doctors, lawyers, accountants, and other groups is bluntly prejudiced. Murder against drunk driving, on the other hand, stands for opposition to an act that is fair uniform. Driving while under the influence of alcohol or both might be a common enemy, at least with respect to certain action. Harvey Brooks helped the member of the 1980 US Olympic hockey team to bond and win the gold medal by deliberately making himself the team's common enemy. Team members in interviews afterward specifically said his over-the-top criticism and work demands helped bond them together as a family capable of championship. Christopher Lee wanted a friend to send him an accounting of expenses for their recent trip to Ecuador. Months passed without a response, despite many reminders. Chris thought his friend was being lazy but didn't want to alienate him. So Chris wrote to his friend blaming all the work each of them had in explaining why his friend didn't have the time to do the accounting. Chris, now an attorney in San Francisco, asked when his friend might have the time. He asked how he could help. This also had the effect of letting his friend save face. His friend sent the account and the relationship was preserved. Some people call this tact or diplomacy. There is, to be sure, a bit of tension between being direct and allowing someone to save face through indirectness. Effective communication is persuasion, so the starting point should be what will convince the other party to meet my goals. Blackstone, the big investment firm, had not scheduled a meeting with Wharton students during a student group trip to London. One of the student organizers, Florent Moise, made some unreturned phone calls. Finally, he left a voicemail for a partner saying that Wharton had already formed meetings with several of Blackstone's competitors. Blackstone had spent a lot of money on campus trying to recruit Wharton students. Florent continued. I really want Blackstone to be in there to meet with Wharton students. Florent said, how can we make sure you are? He got a phone call back almost immediately with a commitment for a meeting. Florent, now a partner in a healthcare consulting firm, didn't blame Blackstone, but he instead focused on a common problems. The enemy was the lack of Blackstone presence. Vivian Fong and some of the other editors at the Journal of Constitutional Law at Penn Law School had a sharp editing disagreement. Court emails were exchanged and tensions rose, so Vivian suggested an in-person meeting. Attributing the problem to the coldness of the email process, everyone seemed to have heaved a collective sigh. The dispute was solved in 15 minutes. Find a common enemy helped us set aside emotion and work together, said Vivian, now an attorney in Los Angeles. Trading things of unequal value or successful relationship depend to a degree on quid pro quo. People do things for one another. Relationships almost always dissolve when one person forces his or her will on another. Trading items of unequal value is one way to solve potential relationship disputes on a daily basis. Tommy Lee wanted to watch football games with his friends in Philadelphia on Sundays during the football season. His wife, Xiaoli, wanted to visit her parents in New York City on Sundays with Tommy. After thinking about what their interests really were, Tommy watching the game, his wife seeing the parents, they realized that where they met up wasn't really the issue, so they traded off. You would buy train tickets for the parents to come down to Philly on weekends, said Tommy, who manages his family's investment business. We'd go up to New York wherever the giant had a week off. What made it all work was the couple's attitude of wanting to solve the problem together, so each of them got something. So many relationship issues have a simple solution if the people involved look for things to trade. Rory Conway, a product manager at Microsoft, wanted his wife Pia to go to India with him for the New Year's holiday. His wife did not want to go, so she said sure, as long as we can stop in Rome over Christmas and see my friends. This is not so hard. Items of unequal value traded. Okay, here's one little harder. Alexandra from Sano wanted to buy four museum quality miniature toy soldiers for his collection, but the cost was $600. "I'm crazy," his wife said. So Alexander looked for something to trade to get his wife's approval. "How about I do the grocery shopping next time?" Not good enough. A gift certificate for the spa? Alexander asked. Not good enough. Alexander offered to do all grocery shopping for the next 2 weeks, give his wife a trip of choice, and take their daughter to and from after-school activities for a month. Accepted. Indeed, the mere act of looking for such things to trade can reduce the tension in a relationship. Maybe Alexander can buy the toy soldiers with the sum of the $13,500 raise he got in Chapter 9. Trading items of unequal value is what you do when the other party is already listening. That is, after any necessary emotional payment had been made, an Asian database vendor was charging $3,999 for each financial information. No exception, no complimentary access. Atul Kumar wanted to use the database for a paper at Wharton. He mentioned he was a student with limited resources. The company answers no. Atul noted that the company was tried to enter the US market, he offered to widely distribute its name at Wharton and mentioned it to his previous employer, which uses a rival. Arthur, now the vice president of business development for a Silicon Valley company, also noted he wanted to see only a small part of the database for one project. The database company changed its mind and said yes. Matthew Dimarani had invited his girlfriend to dinner, but an unusual night out with the guy's invitation came up. He apologized profusely to her and asked her if he could reschedule their dinner. She seemed upset. Was this because they were not spending enough time together? He asked. She told Matthew that she didn't trust that he would reschedule their dinner anytime soon. I immediately pulled out my cell phone and rescheduled our reservation to illustrate my commitment, said Matthew, now a director at an investment firm in New York. He thought his cell phone commitment saved the relationships. Of course, before dealing with such sensitive issues, it is especially important to prepare. If you are not prepared, it is okay to say to your partner, I'm not prepared to discuss this. Before we have a disagreement, can I collect my thought first? Then we can try to work this through together. Cindy Wang Sharhan wanted to go to a party with a friend of hers on Saturday night, but Cindy's friend didn't want to go. Cindy, thinking about the issue from her friend's point of view, remembered that her friend hated to be alone on the weekend. So Cindy told her friend they could do whatever she wanted on Friday night if she would go to the party on Saturday. Her friend quickly agreed. Role reversal is my favorite negotiation tool, said Cindy. A senior manager at American Express is the best way to focus on joint interest and avoid bickering. Here, it helped Cindy find things to trade. Families sometimes get separated because work was cool. Inevitably, such separations over time cause argument. But the real need among such families is usually not just face time, but quality time. For example, Ted Anthony Shin was attending school 2 hours away and traveling back and forth daily. He was exhausted, so Kate asked his partner if he could get an apartment close to school for 3 nights a week. In return, he would arrange his schedule so he was home the other 4 nights, Thursday through Saturday. His partner would have more quality time with him than now. She agreed to the new arrangement. Kate is now a consultant in New York. Rebecca Switch wanted her boyfriend to deep clean their apartment. He was uninterested. You can just hear the drip. The place is free. Oh, it's not that bad. Then Rebecca remembered trading things of unequal value. If you bring your friends over to clean the apartment, I'll cook you all the best dinner you've had in months, said Rebecca, now vice president of head insurer. And that was all the incentive her boyfriend needed. She got a clean apartment and he got to enjoy the terrific dinner at home with his friends. One of the more creative ways of trading items of unequal value in a relationship was done by Craig Trent. The Trents had a 2-year-old Caroline babysitting in their area cost $15 an hour. The quality of local babysitter wasn't very good, so Craig and his wife, Anastasia, talked to friends who also had a young child. and offered to trade babysitting each other's kid so each couple could have the night off periodically. They saved a lot of money, got much better quality babysitting, and were able to set up an instant play date for their toddler. They also made the relationship between the two couples stronger. If you're having an issue, look for others in the same situation, solve your problem together, said Craig, a naval officer. Some people already use their neighborhood as a support group, but not enough people do it in a structured fashion. It's just like expanding your network of relationships in a company. Perhaps you can shop for each other, run errands for each other, or exchange couple duties. Time is such a valuable commodity in life. Always look for ways to get more time.